We have the MHA for Mount Pearl South, Paul Lane. Paul, how are you?
Daryl, I'm great. How are you doing tonight?
I couldn't be better. I'm in round pumpfish here on a Thursday night. I could pinch myself.
Absolutely. That was a legend for you.
They're full of legends in this chair.
No doubt about that. Daryl, I wanted to just talk tonight, if I could, about the 1.6 kilometre school busing rule.
Yes, that old rule. That's been... How long has that rule been around?
Boy, it's been there for quite some time, for sure.
It was there since I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. Been there for a number of years. But, you know, interestingly enough, and I know you're going to find, I know you and your listeners are going to find this difficult to believe, perhaps, but trust me on this one. Our provincial government, a number of years ago, actually commissioned a study by a consultant, Deloitte, and it was a $75,000 study, and and it was on the school busing, and basically the results of that study, the conclusion that came from it, among other things, was that the 1.6 kilometre rule should be scrapped for elementary aged children, and you know, primarily because of safety issues and so on. And believe it or not, after spending $75,000 of taxpayers' money on a study and to get on school busing, and to get that report, guess what? Government ignored the recommendation. Now, I know that's going to be difficult for you and the listeners to believe that our government would actually spend money on studies, get the study done, and then not act upon the recommendations, but that is what happened.
So why do you think they haven't, I mean, school busing is a big issue province-wide in terms of the amount of school buses that are available and the standards that are soon to be acceptable for school buses. So I guess, is like, and a lot of these school buses must be full or to the point of overflowing. So do you think that it's just too cost prohibitive to continue on to let people a lot closer than the 1.6 kilometers or the 1 mile in, for lack of a better term?
Well, it's interesting, Daryl, that you should talk about that, about school buses being full and so on, because, you know, I've actually received calls, and by the way, I know that, you know, in certainly some of the growth areas and so on, there are no doubt there's issues of capacity and so on. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it especially for young children, K to 6 children, because again, it is a big safety issue. But it's interesting. I was given some information which I passed along to our education critic Dale Kirby, certainly to follow up on, about one particular area in the province, and I'm not going to name the area, the schools or nothing. It doesn't matter. But you know, bottom line is, I was told that there was 4 large buses basically bypassing communities and picking up kids in other communities, and they were going around half empty and so on. So, I question sometimes the efficiency that's there, and I believe all of our children, need to be treated equally and equitably, regardless of where they live. And we had to be concerned for all of our children's safety. But, I do question, I do wonder, is it not time to, really, for the minister to roll up his sleeves and to really look at the busing that is taking place across the province, and to assure that we're doing it in the most effective and the most efficient way, serving the needs of the students, but at the same time, making sure that there is no, wastage and so on. And perhaps if that was done, then they could find the savings to accommodate children that don't have busing, that really do require busing. And, I mean, I look at my district as one example, and there's numerous examples, and I'm not trying to pick one area over another, don't get me wrong, but, my district is a busy urban area. And, you have situations where not everybody, unfortunately, is in a position financially Whether it be, only one parent on a low income, or two parents on a low income, or fixed incomes, or single parents, or whatever the circumstance may be, where they don't actually own an automobile. And so it's a real challenge for them to get their kids, especially young kids, like K to 6 kids, to school. And of course, that is even made worse in the winter time. In particular, I mean, we've certainly heard about challenges in the winter in terms of sidewalks not being cleared and so on. Certainly heard it loud and clear this winter in the city of St. John's, and I have to say the city of Mount Pearl does do a really good job with sidewalks, but that being said, they can't do them all, and they can't do them all overnight, especially when you have big snowfalls. Mm-hmm. But, when that happens, then pedestrians are forced to walk out into the road, and even in times when we're not into the winter months, quite often they have to cross busy streets, 4-lane streets and roads and so on. And for young children, that is a real safety concern.
Do you think that the reason that this is in place is because of the urban areas where there is such a large amount of streets within a 1.6 kilometer range? And that's one question. And another quick question I'm wondering is, like, how much do you think this rule is being followed in parts of rural Newfoundland? Like, every now and then, are the parents getting together with the principal and saying, look, and presenting a case that makes sense, and the principal is saying to the bus driver, look, why don't you stop here on your way and pick up this group of kids? Do you think that's happening?
It could be happening, and I don't have an issue with it. Like, even here in the urban area, they have a policy, at least they had a policy, I still think they do, it's called a courtesy seat. Mm-hmm. So if you have a bus, for example, and that bus its primary purpose is to pick up children outside the 1.6.
Yeah.
And if along the way to the school they have to pass by a house or an area, and they have empty seats, and there are kids going to that school, they have traditionally in the past, I think they still do, offer a courtesy seat for those children that may be closer. But of course, then that seat is a courtesy seat, and then if a new child comes on stream, for example, that's outside the 1.6, then they would lose that seat. So, and I'm not questioning that, and I'm not questioning it in rural Newfoundland versus urban Newfoundland.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is that I don't think children in K to 6, young children, I think that busing should be made available to them because of the safety factor. That's what I'm saying, regardless of where they live. And obviously, the consultant, of which the government paid $75,000 of yours and my hard-earned taxpayers' money, they paid $75,000 for a study, and the study came back, and it came back to that particular conclusion. Mm-hmm. So I really think that it's something that the government needs to take a very serious look at, and I realize, I'm the first one to say, I've spoken in the House Assembly many a times about the need for us to be fiscally responsible. I know money doesn't grow on trees. I totally understand and get all that, but I do wonder if there are not efficiencies that can be found in the system, particularly when I hear stories, and again, they're stories, and all these things had to be checked out, of situations whereby you might have 4 buses doing what 1 or 2 buses could be doing. And it's a big issue. It's like, since I was a kid, I remember living within that little radius of the school. This one rings true for me. I'm a kid again, Paul. Listen to this one. It's a good issue. I'm glad you brought it up tonight, and let's see where it flies, and let's see where it goes. Yeah, Daryl, absolutely. Thank you. And one quick last point if I could.
Okay, because I got another caller, and I got to go in a few minutes.
Okay, in the school reorganization that just took place in Mount Pearl that they're proposing with St. Peter's Elementary in Newtown and so on, that is one of the issues. There were families with very young children, for example, who bought homes, who moved into the neighborhood to go to a neighborhood school, say in Newtown, where they could basically walk down the street to the school. Now those kids have to go to St. Peter's, and there's families now that have to try to get them to St. Peter's. However, St. Peter's is less than 1.6 kilometers, so now they are thrown into a middle of a 1.6 kilometer issue with their children. So that's another. There's lots
of individual there's a lot of individual cases that need to be looked at in this, and hopefully they are. Paul, great call, great chat. We'll talk again.
Absolutely, Darryl. Pleasure talking with you.
Take care. Bye bye.
Have a good night.
You
Bye.
too.